podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
First there was the original.
I thought it might be nice for kids. Keep them off the street, you know.
Then the basic.
This is a simple game.
Then the first version of the advanced.
Good, clean, wholesome fun.
Now the hammer comes down. Welcome to THACO's Hammer, the best damn second edition AD&D podcast ever.
Hiya, folks. THACO's Hammer. We're back with Splat Book number 24 of Gods, Men, and Monsters. This one should be interesting. I'm DM Glen. DM Glen. And that guy cackling in the back is DM Brian.
Hello. Good evening, folks.
And, of course, we've got...
lurking in the corner. Quietly is
DM,
full-on gainer.
He certainly is. We have a special guest with us tonight, DM Zach. Hiya, Zach.
Hey. How you doing?
He's coming from, I don't want to say it.
What? Montreal, correct?
Thank you, Montreal. I've got Toronto on the brain for some reason. I don't know why.
Maybe need to take a vacation there or something.
Maybe. DM Zach, who is the author of Vornheim, the Complete City Kit. Excellent supplement. And you're welcome. And without further ado, let's go into Hits and Crits.
What do you feel like doing tonight? I don't know, Ange. What do you feel like doing? Oh, we ought to do something at Saturday night. I don't want to go bowling like last Saturday. Oh, what do you feel like doing tonight? I don't know, Ange. What do you feel like doing?
Hits and Crits.
Hits and Crits. Okay, what do you guys been doing role playing wise this week? Should I flip a coin or somebody want to start?
Oh, I'll start as usual. I just still converting characters using the core rules set. I've got my monitor screen is full of sticky notes on all the things that I'm supposed to be doing. Been kind of procrastinating a little bit. The creative juices are kind of not flowing as freely as they should, shall I say.
How many characters do you have to convert?
Now, let's see. I've got what is this? I'd say this is probably a 4-inch 3-ring binder full of NPCs. But to be fair, that includes both rogue galleries, the first edition and the second edition one as well. And I mean, playing for 30 years now. Yeah, I pretty much kept almost every character I've ever had. So,
forget I asked.
You did ask.
How about you, Zach? What you been doing?
Actually, the last couple weeks, I've been playing a bunch of games on Google Plus for video chat.
How's that work?
Well, a couple weeks ago, I just posted on my blog. In the middle of the night, I was like, who else is awake? So 20 people were like, oh, I'm awake. And so I was like, who wants to run a game on Skype or Google Plus? And some guy in Italy was like, I'll run the game. And then like someone in Seattle was like, I'll play. And then someone else in Chicago was like, I'll play. So we had a game. And then the next day I realized that because multi-person video is free on Google Plus, you can pretty much play a game of whatever you want whenever you want. And so I said, hey, everybody should just get on Google Plus and start running games. And if you want to run a game, put your pitch in the comments on this post. And so people started doing that. And I went, in one day I went from having 4 to like 100 Google Plus friends.
Wow.
And everybody's running games now. So I've played like 15 games in 4 weeks now with people I've never met,
Wow.
But it's really fun. I got to play Empire of the Petal Throne for the first time. Played a couple games of that. Played with a bunch of people who I've seen on the blogs forever, who I've never, I don't know them, but now, I got to see their face, and we played some games, and we're working on some rules for moving characters from game to game, and from system to system, so you can have a continuing character with XP building up. Mm-hmm. And so that's actually been really fun, and it's working out pretty well, aside from a few technical bumps. But yeah, that's what we've been doing.
Okay, question. How was Empire to the Petal Throne?
For me, it was really fun, and it felt like D&D. You know, obviously the atmospherics of it being a different place were different, like they're supposed to be. But in terms of gameplay and understanding what was going on, like it felt like a dungeon crawl, and I had a good time with it. You know, I think that the thing about it being an exotic setting, I don't know if anybody doesn't know about Empire of the Petal Throne, it's like the first homebrew setting, essentially. It's got its own language. It's very alien and exotic, but it used D&D's rules in the beginning. And the knock on it, of course, is that it's so alien it's hard to run. But I think if you're an experienced player of different RPGs, it's just another setting. It's a good setting. It's an interesting setting, but it's not that hard to grasp. It might be for a first-time RPG player, but if you been around the block a few times, you're like, okay, this is an interesting world, and then here's a dungeon, go kill things.
Cool. Wow. How about Full On, what you been up to?
Actively gaming, little to none, sadly. However, I've been working my way through helping out with the various shows on the network, yes, and doing my mod duties over on D20 Radio.
You people on Colorado Springs, come on, he wants to play.
And trying to help. In the greater Denver area, come on, there's a guy, he wants to play. Let him play.
Yeah. Maybe
Other than that, I've been digging out the various things that I still have yet to unpack from moving here, and finally found my Night Below box and my maps for other things that I've created, so I can start putting that package of stuff together, ready to get it up on the library.
Cool, that's great. That's great. Yeah, you're still moving in, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, me, once again, no gaming, except Thursday, Vince is starting a Moldvay Cook Skype game. I'm sure you guys are invited if you want. Actually, it's not going to be Moldvay Cook. He says he's going to start running Star Frontiers for a while.
That's interesting.
This should be interesting.
Yeah, I haven't played Stargate. My God, I haven't played Star Frontiers in like 25 years.
I've never played Star Frontiers, so this is going to be a new thing to me.
I can see you playing a Dralosite.
I don't even.
Yazirian. You got to have the winged monkey.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't even want to know. And other than that, I went down to Half Price Books and got my complete set of the Wizard Spell Compendium.
Oh, it was still there?
It was still there.
How much was it for the set?
Total $55.
Oh, jeez.
Good catch.
Lucky man.
Yes. Well, they retailed originally for $25 a piece, so.
And I paid that retail.
$12.50 a book, and I got them, so I'm a happy camper. Son of a gun. So that's what we've been doing. We don't have any emails, right?
No, none today. Come on, people. You guys were inundating us last month. Come on, quit slacking.
That's right.
Send us stuff, please.
THACOSHammer@gmail.com or the number
405-806-0555
or osrgaming.org or D20 Radio or I got it already. purpleworm.org.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, in the meantime, let's go into option package.
My personality undergoes a startling change.
You know, you should meet me because I'm a great guy.
I like big fat men like you. When they fall, they make more noise. And sometimes they never get up.
Option package.
Option package. Splat book. Monster mythology.
Yes.
Not one of my favorites.
I still don't know why.
What do you mean you still don't know why? I'm just not into like the gods and Avatar.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that part. Yeah. You can use this book without having to even go with the Avatar thing anyway.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm saying I remember originally when Deities and Demigods book came out, a lot of players were just treating it as like another monster manual.
Yeah, they were.
You know, oh,
Ma'am?
Odin comes
Oh?
down and I smack his butt around. What?
We used it to run fights between Hercules and Thor.
Now, see, that would be actually kind of cool. You know,
Well, Thor's a god and Hercules is just a demigod, so Thor just, had twice as many hit points. It kind of ended fast, but but in theory, it's exciting.
But
And at some point, who doesn't want to go hunting Tiamat? Or to
yeah,
cash in your, hey, and we killed Lothchip.
Well,
okay, this is Splatbook number 2128.
Yes, it is.
And it was written by Carl Sargent, edited by Scott Herring, illustrations by Terry Dykstra.
Yes, indeed.
Black and whites, color illustrations, John and Laura Lakey, Keith Parkinson, etc., etc., etc. And this came out in, if I can look at it without my glasses,
1992.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
1992. And this is basically what it does for the monsters and demi-humans, what a Legends and Lore does for everybody else.
Correct.
It's got gods of demi-humans, goblinoids, underdark gods, seas and skies, scaly folk, dark folk. It's even got gods of the giants. Even got gods in here for undead.
Yes.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, it's a wonderful little thing for.
That's great.
Go. What's that, Zach?
I just love the idea of undead with gods. Like, maybe that's what means.
True.
The mindless worshipping of zombies as they kill people. Yes.
Yes. I am surprised they didn't put Dagon in here. Well, they probably couldn't for God of the Sea Folk.
Dagon?
Yes, Father Dagon. But
you mean from Cthulhu?
Yeah, but they already had.
Yeah, they've had a run-in with that before.
Yeah.
That's why I still have my deities and demigods sitting on the shelf that has him in there.
Me too. Yes. Those are a lot of fun. But anyway, any more breakdown on this book, Brian? Do we have any spells in here, or what do we got?
Well, they don't have too many in the way of spells. I mean, I remember when I first bought this, when it first came out, I got it just for the demi-human section of it to start with. Then I just started reading the rest of the book, and I'm like, oh, cool. So if the party decides to raid a community of lizard men, it's not just going to be lizard men and their leader. There are going to be some shaman in there as well.
Oh, yeah.
And this gives you, breakdowns of each god, what they do, what they're about, and the special abilities that their priesthood have. It's talking about killing gods. It just made me laugh because I remember back in my 1E playing days, the DM I was playing under at the time, he wanted my character, who we played like this extremely munchkin-y, high-powered game. Our character levels were up into the 60s and 70s, and basically he wanted my character to go up against Groomsh, god of the orcs. And
God of the orcs?
Yes, he wanted me and my character to do it.
God.
And I'm just like, I was like, wait a minute. You want me to go up against that? Really? He's like, well, you can do that, or you can retire your character and he becomes a Herald of Odin. I'm like, okay, he's retired. Because I knew better.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. I'm just thumbing through. They have goblinoid gods. They have kobold gods. Liz, I don't like that one. Bugbear gods, but I'm trying. I couldn't find the pantheon. I'm assuming like ogres follow the orc gods.
No.
Well, that are the giants.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds like a giant. Because I was going to say, you finally got some kind of pantheon or gods you can have the ogre magi worship.
Right. Well, actually, if I remember right, ogres worship Vaprak, who is the god of not only ogres but of trolls too. So yeah, he double dips. So he's a fairly strong power in his own right. But yeah, at least from what I remember, they worship them.
So this is probably just basically write-ups of demi-human and other thing god pantheons. Gives you some nice sections on priests and priesthoods for those races. Other notes like that. Shows you how to play an avatar.
Yep.
If he comes down and starts to walk on the earth.
Yeah, they also show the circumstances under which an avatar a deity would send an avatar to a certain place.
Exactly. Exactly. From what I did read in here, I did like the section about the goblinoid gobs with the war, with Groomish and all that, and how he got the throne and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's kind of crunchy stuff you could work into your campaign.
Yep, easily.
Yeah. See, this. Well, I'll get to it when we get to Legends and Lore. But anyway, that's the monster mythology. It's out there. It's rather easy to find, actually.
I would say so.
I think I have 3 on my shelf.
There's your proof positive right there.
Yeah, I think it's 5.
You find until someone started hoarding them all.
Oh yeah, we gotta watch that.
Yeah, full on.
The original MSRP was $15. And I walk into half price all the time. I'll see one on the shelf. eBay and them $5-10. So it's easy. It's an easy buy. If you got Legends and Lore and you want to get into like more complicated plots with the monsters and stuff and gods, this is the book to get.
Yep, easily.
Let us move on. It's in the book.
You ever go to school, stupid?
Yeah, and I come out the same way.
Is that your idea of an idea?
It's in the book.
It's in the book. Okay, the main event, Legends and Lore.
Yes.
As everybody knows, Legends and Lore used to be known as deities and demigods until the moral guardians started coming down on our little heads.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Which is why the demons got a name change. Anyway, yes.
Let's not go down that road.
No. But do you have the stats on this one?
The stats are, let's see, this was designed by Troy Denning and your man James Ward.
James Ward, yes.
And this is stock number 2108. Also got color art by, again, your man Errol Otis, Eric Olson, Jean Elizabeth Martin, Jeff Easley, etc., etc. And this was put out in 1990.
There's a bit of a name confusion because later on they renamed the first edition to Legends and Lore 2 to keep everybody off their backs. So you really got to watch like the covers of these because you may pick up a first edition by mistake or something like that.
Is there art and content overlap, or is it all new content and art?
I think there's some overlap.
Errol Otis. Like 1990, whatever, seems a little bit late for original Errol Otis art.
I think there is some overlap, but from what I'm seeing by just there's a little thing with Heimdall on the Rainbow Bridge on Bifrost. That's an old picture from 1980. So yeah, there is a little bit of crossover.
Yeah.
Like there's in the beginning of the Norse mythology, they have the full page art of Odin with his 2 wolves riding Sleipnir. So yeah, there's a lot of crossover, I would say.
This is the kind of book that's revered by people, but I never had much use for. I'm sure I could get plot hooks and stuff out of it. That's about it. I keep it around if the players, you want a god to worship, here's the book.
Yeah.
And occasionally I go, okay, we're not using that pantheon. Okay, here's 2 pantheons you can use.
Yeah, I feel like the God books, the thing about them is they're bound to be a book where there's something interesting, and almost by definition, 60% of the book you'll never use.
Yeah.
Just because of the nature of God. It's like artifacts. It's like you look at the artifact book and there's like 40 or 50 great artifacts, but in a campaign you're going to use 1, maybe 2. The same thing with gods. It's like you might find a really interesting detail, but you've just bought 50 really interesting details. So it's a weird thing. You know what I mean? It's like, well, how much of this do I read and use, or do I just want to devour it all and then?
Yeah, there's more fluff in there than people know.
Yeah.
You know, you could get a lot more use out of this book. I always found more use out of the world specific deity books, like when they started releasing all the Forgotten Realms books or the Faiths and Avatars and stuff like that. Those had more ties to the game world and were more likely to be used. But I still have opportunities where I would pull things from, like, you know, there are good Norse mythos crops up pretty much everywhere, one way or the other.
Yep.
The Greeks drop in, the Egyptians drop in. You rarely see very many people doing Aztec or Chinese, Celtic. For some reason, they have the Arthurian mythology in here.
Yeah,
if you wanted to do the whole, you know, Arthurian legends and stuff like that. But you can always turn around and reskin some of this stuff. Like, I could easily see taking the American Indian mythology and reskinning that. This was before we had monster mythology. So if you needed some tribal shamans for these wild orc groups or lizard men or something like that, tie them into those. Reskin them.
You're so going to get letters about that. You have just saying, oh, well, if you need orc gods, use Native American ones.
Well, at least at the time. Yeah, I mean, that was the whole thing with, this at least had to be...
See, this is the kind of non-PC stuff I leave in.
Yeah, well, you know.
Or not even just orc gods, or just anything that's going to have your encounter base is tribal structured. Well,
Right.
you have tribal structured pantheons here.
No, I
Make
agree.
use of them.
I agree
Or
totally.
if you have a city-state, if you have city-state mythologies or city-state structures and encounters, okay, go Chinese and Japanese on them. You know.
Yep, and actually, I'm taking deities out of this book and adapting them to my Mystara campaign, which is kind of slow going because the frustrating thing about this book, even though they felt they had to do it to, when they made second edition, they had to convert the deities over. The problem is that they are just a little short on information. I mean, they gave it the spit and polish in the Forgotten Realms deity books, where there is 10 pages devoted to pretty much anything you want to know about a god, his power, his faith, religious orders, and so forth. And that was missing in this book.
Hey, Zach. Zach. Here's some great material right here for Vornheim 2. Deities, rolling up deities on the fly.
Well, I've always thought that deities are really interesting because they tie the player to the setting more than anything else. Like the cleric is the one character that has to be tied to the setting.
Right.
And so I think you can really do, and plus, unlike, I don't know, mountain ranges or lakes, gods are parts of the setting that can make your characters act crazy. And so I feel like, on the one hand, I love the idea of using gods in world creation. On the other hand, I feel like the way that it's dealt with in D&D has always been not exactly fully, it hasn't been exploiting it to its full potential. Like the first one was a monster manual of gods, and then later ones were essentially setting material for pre-made settings. And what I guess I really want is maybe something that lays out a religion like as a series of plot hooks and rules for characters or regimes of, like, how do they change the setting? How does that god change your setting? Is their architecture weird? Is their magic items weird? Are the rules of their nuns and monks weird? I guess that's the most interesting thing to me. But I also think that probably the real value of the early legends and lore and deities and demigods is that, whether we want to admit it or not, that's probably where most of us at a certain age learned about those gods, period.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll raise my hand right now. That's exactly what happened.
I mean, other than Thor comics, if I know a Latin root or a Finnish god or what the Kalevala is, it's because of deities and demigods.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I mean I knew nothing about the Celtic gods until I read those books.
Yeah, me neither.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It was at least see D&D is educational, folks.
Yeah, it can be.
It'll get you a foot in the door and just enough information to be dangerous to yourself and others.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Enough
Now,
to get you in trouble.
Now, in second edition, I believe the gods did get a power bump along with the monsters.
Slightly. And actually, you want to know what? They actually got a power downgrade.
Really?
Going from first edition to second edition, because they decided to say, you know what? You can't kill a god. All you can do is destroy an avatar of the god. That's all you can do. And with the new level structure that second edition had, where 20th level is the maximum, which to me was, I understood why they did it. I just wish they hadn't. It's one of my few gripes about second edition. But because any 20th level fighter can say, you want to know what? I challenge this god's avatar on this day. I want to see who's better at this, blah, 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 blah. And if I defeat you, I take your power. Yeah, no, this isn't Highlander, Chief.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those things where defeating, even though they have ridiculous immunities to mortal magic, especially if you go up against a greater god, which is like
on their home plane, which is the suicidal thing to do.
Well, exactly. That's why you get them to send an avatar to your plane, so it's a quote-unquote fair fight. But my whole thing is that they didn't go far enough in making, even though they came up with the idea of avatars, they didn't make them strong enough. Again, they finally got that treatment in the Forgotten Realms, where the level limit was pushed to 40 for sake of these avatars and powers and whatnot.
Now, what were you saying, Zach?
I was just saying, I think killable gods are great. I think the chances of you getting strong enough to take on a god, at least the way they were originally written in 1E, are not real good.
True.
But if you can do it, then you should be able to just kill Odin. I just feel like that should be on the table as a, you start as a first level thief, and one day, I think the Avatar is a little bit of a gift, personally.
Well, I'm surprised they didn't up the gods from the get like they did in the realms, because my thinking of the way TSR was thinking is, okay, they're just treating these like high level monsters. Let's bump them up so high they can't kill them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I thought that's exactly what they were going to do.
Well, personally, I think that's what they should have done. But, at the same time, you had, back in the early to mid 80s, I mean, for every well-run, fair, enjoyable game there was at least 3 power gamers, 3 power game campaigns. I raised my hand because I was part of one. That's kind of how I got my start. But,
of course.
But
who hasn't?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as soon as my DM got goodness gracious, what is it called? God's, got the Demigods book. He saw that, and and immediately all of us wanted to challenge the gods to, kill the gods and take their place.
Yeah,
that's exactly what we wanted to start doing. And
I'm thinking back in the basic book, like the rule cyclopedia, that's what they were getting from the players. So it's like, okay, here's some mortals rules. Mm-hmm. So if you want to become a god, you do this instead of trying to knock off the current pantheon or something.
Yeah, see that. Yeah, and that in itself, and I saw some of those immortal rules adventures. Yeah, some of them, getting to immortality was extremely hard, as it should be, but at the same time, it's like, with Legends and Lore, I mean, like I said, I understand what they're trying to do, but they should make the avatar so powerful that, it's a very rare thing for the party to defeat one of those. And if they defeat one of those, then all of a sudden, they get the notoriety, both good and bad, or at least that's what I'm seeing.
Well, that's right.
And even then, Even then, there's still the other thing you have to pay attention to is that 9 times out of 10 is not a problem with the stats of the deity as they're presented in the book. It's a problem with the presentation of the encounter by the game master and the perception of the encounter by the players. Okay? You can run a deity as a power. You can run a deity as a serious mover and shaker, and you can exercise all of their abilities to their maximum potential and be strategic and be tactical and use the pantheons, use their allies, use their minions. Like, when you fight when you fight Set, you don't just fight the guy, you fight him and his horde of minions, which have their own monster manual entry and show up by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. Yes, that's if you were stupid enough to go and fight him on his own plane.
To raise his hand.
Yeah.
To quote, to bring up another game system, this is why it was such a popular Call Cthulhu GM, because I didn't kill off players. Yeah, they may have gone insane or have phobias and stuff like that, but I didn't kill them off wholesale because I said, you're not going to fight Cthulhu, you're going to fight the priests of Cthulhu. You're going to fight the high priest of Cthulhu. You're going to fight some deep ones, maybe one. You're going to fight humans.
Yep.
I
get it.
So, yeah. So that's you're right. They've got minions. They're going to use them. So there's no stupid gods. Well, maybe one or two, but who knows? Or maybe they got a stupidity up there. I don't know.
Who knows?
No, it's got a piece. I'm already using him.
Well, if there's a god of stupidity, he's certainly a greater god.
Oh, yes. Just like potatoes, god of potatoes. Anyway, Legends and Lore, this one's semi-rare too. It's semi-common. Wouldn't you say, guys?
I'd say it's fairly common because after the Player's Handbook and DM's Guide, this was the next one in line.
Before the Monster Man, that's right.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do second edition, you got to be careful. Like I said, make sure you get second edition Legends and Lore. Look at the cover. If it doesn't say second edition, you ain't got it. You got the first edition one.
Right.
If you want to use that, go ahead. But I'm just, caveat emptor.
Yep.
See, I learned some new words today.
Let the buyer beware.
And also be aware that this is like the middle child of the various deity products that they came out with. And they did develop the product and the presentation and the information you get better and better and better with some of the later products.
Yes, which we will get to on a future show. That's for sure.
Right. All right, let's head into Rule 0. Ryan's going to tell us all about it.
Yay.
One would think you've been doing this all your life.
We'll remember you said that.
I know. I'm sure you hate me just enough.
Rule 0.
Rule 0. Clerical free casting. What is it and do you use it? Now, Brian, was this in any of the books or anything?
No, absolutely. It wasn't.
So.
I ran across this in trying to remember. I think it was a game I played when I was living in Florida. And the DM basically said, you don't have to memorize like a mage. A cleric gets his power from his deity. He prays for it. He doesn't pray for the ability to cast spells through his faith. He appeals to his deity or a intermediary for the power to cast whatever he wants. That was his logic, and I agreed with it. Basically what it is that a first level cleric with, say, let's just for argument's sake, an 18 wisdom, he'll get 3 first level clerical spells, right?
Right.
Now with most games, or at least with going strictly by the book, before the cleric sets out on his adventure with his adventuring buddies, he would have to actually pray for specific spells. Basically it's like memorizing just like a mage does, more or less.
Okay.
And now if he prays for, let's say, bless cure light wounds and something else, and he needs like a sanctuary spell or something like that, he's out of luck. So basically what it is just you take those same 3 spells that you pray for the ability to have them, and then if the fighter gets severely wounded in combat, you can pray on the spot for a cure light wounds. Or if you have to go through, like, say, 3 orcs to get to the fighter, you can cast a sanctuary spell on yourself before you go to try and get to the fighter to heal him.
So you can cast any of those 3 spells until you've cast spells 3 times.
Whatever spells you can cast, that are in the book that are first level, up to your casting level, exactly. You can cast whatever you want on the spot.
Yeah, it's the faith-based spontaneous casting ability.
Yes.
And it was actually a very common, every once in a while you'd see this as a house rule in use, even in first edition games. Second edition games did it. Player's Option actually put it into ink, and then by the time they come around to third edition, they went halfway with it and did that whole, you have spontaneous casting for your heal spells, and you choose your utility spells.
Yeah. Exactly. Halfway is a very good way to describe it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going on the fence.
Yeah.
See, this. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Zach.
I was going to say, this is the way I do it, and the reason that I do it this way is, otherwise, the rest of the party, if you have, depends on your players, but certain fighter types, they just get into a rhythm where they see something and they attack it, and if they can't attack it, they don't know what to do. And that's just that's how they have fun. They're your people, they're in the game, and that's how they play. So if the cleric doesn't have healing for them, then they're just not playing the game that they want to play. On the other hand, if the cleric just has to pick 3 healing spells every single time, or they're screwing the party, then you don't get to see the rest of those spells, and that magic doesn't exist. And also, at least in my game with my players, there are no regular wizards in my game. There's a cleric, and that's it. And so, in order to see all the wacky things magic can do, I kind of almost need this rule. Like, I need the cleric to be able to heal if she has to, but then also cast the other spells if she has to. And if it were like a harsh, fancy, and prep system, I think my game, at least the way it's being run now, would be less interesting and have less magic in it.
Mm-hmm. Frankly, I'd like to see wizards do this too.
Yeah, but
it'd take a little restructuring, though.
Yeah, quite a bit of restructuring.
Well, again, they did it, and then they went away from it.
Yeah. Well,
and it's like they also brought in the free casting kind of concept to the turn. They turned it into a utility tool able to do more than just make dead things go away or blow up. There are adventures where they wrote it as you have to use a turn to open the door because it's a holy sealed door. You can't use knock spell to open it. You can't bend bars and force it. You have to exhaust one of your turn attempts to power open the door with the strength of your faith.
Right.
Interesting. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Speaking of strength of faith, you mentioned, Brian, something about where in the how to do it, you mentioned that he prays to his God to give him the spells, give him the, that's his thing he does every night. Praise.
Yeah, exactly.
God.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that goes back to the Paladin show we were doing. I said I couldn't imagine Paladins for concepts or priesthoods for concept, even though there are other. I mean, how do these clerics get their spells? They pray to what for their spell?
They pray.
Spell.
Go ahead.
I forget where they put it, but there was somewhere where they wrote up that basically you can really have anything you want, generate up to 3rd level spells on the power of faith alone. So if you want to worship the West Wall, or the High Tower, or the Sunrise, or Happy Joy Joy the sock puppet, you can get clerics of Happy Joy Joy the sock puppet getting 3rd level spells based on your charisma and the faith of people actually believing in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's like a focus then.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Okay. But what if you were the priest of love and you needed a 6th level spell?
Then you die.
Yeah, then you're screwed. Okay. If you don't have the level to cast it, then you're screwed.
No, I mean you have the level. I mean, but I'm saying.
Oh, you mean? Oh, yeah. If you need.
You're a priest of the.
Love as a concept. There are pantheons and deities for love throughout many write-ups in all kinds of world settings. So even if you aren't necessarily worshiping that deity in specific name, you're probably tapping that for power to get your 6th level and 8th level spells.
Yeah, because isn't that how...
It'd be a lot easier if you were actually a worshiper of that deity, but they're there. They already exist, so they're a focus for you.
But isn't that how deities got their alternate names, really?
Yeah.
Because they're not known in this region as, say,
Sam.
As Sam. They're known as Joe over here. Exactly. But they're still worshiping the area of influence that the god has.
Yeah, that seems really 2E to me. Like, it's a sort of rationalized system. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost a scientific approach.
It keeps you from overcrowding the planescape with every single deity from every single pantheon from every single world setting, all arguing and squabbling over the same batch of souls.
Yeah. Well,
But that's what you would only be thinking about if you were a 2E person, I think. Like, it's a very, what makes sense? You know?
Well, to me, that makes a lot more sense than having just, one particular, having, like Full-On said, having multiple, powers arguing over the exact same area of influence, just having different names. I mean, that goes back into history anyway. How many, using Christianity as a base, how many names does God have? Quite a few.
If you go to the Hebrew pantheon, he has a lot more than that.
Right. So
the point is that you care that if it makes sense or not, which to me is very 2E.
Well, yeah.
Okay. It's
I get what you're coming from.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot I do save or die too. It's a very basic D&D way of thinking of it, and I applaud you.
Yeah,
you're right. Okay, folks, a wizard did it. Anyway.
No, I say a priest did.
Dare I say it? Take that, Vince. Anyway.
Oh, you just said it.
I did.
Yes,
I did. Sorry, Crispy. Anyway,
you aren't sorry at all.
So you've done free casting before, right, Brian?
Yeah, it's an integral part of my game now. Okay. I mean, I've gotten into arguments, and God only knows, I get into arguments about most of the things that I adopt into my game and say, hey, this makes sense. This makes better sense than a cleric just basically being a different kind of wizard. Give him something, give him a little more utility, let him help the party more, make him more than just a mobile aid station, which is how, most people that I've run into play clerics for the most part. They take 4 Cure Light Wound spells and that's it. They don't think about, a bless spell which might help in a fight. They don't think about a sanctuary spell which actually might save the cleric's life in some way. It
also helps you to get the campaign moving instead of having to get hung up with the last battle went badly, somebody got critical, and they lost their arm at the shoulder, but you have to wait another 24 hours to rememorize your spells to get that regeneration spell. Or, oh no, somebody died, let's wait another day and try to get that raise dead or resurrect spell. If you have the power at your beck and call and it's time to use it, you call on your god, you use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that, I can see the argument from the other side if you're playing a very ground level, gritty thing where you want the cleric player to sort of be preparing ahead of time for certain battles or adventures. But I also feel like at least in certain campaigns, you can't use the whole rest of the cleric spell list besides the healing spells can kind of go to waste, and you're not using the part of the mythology that would involve that kind of magic. I feel like a bless spell or atonement or spells like that really, they can do something to the setting, exorcism, things like that. They have a meaning within a setting if religion is an important part of it. And and that's an interesting thing about the medieval world. And so I feel like I want the option to use that stuff without at the same time gimping the cleric on the healing. It just seems like you're at a certain point you're limiting your access to what's part of the game. If the cleric just can only do healing spells, then you've got a whole part of the game that you're not using because your game's too dangerous, you know?
It's going to be more of a problem if you start running into those creatures and encounters that, like, okay, you ran into the Death Knight. Death Knight goes boo. Everybody's scared. They run away. Oh, well, the cleric didn't memorize, remove fear today because they were expecting a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
It all goes back, to me, it all goes back to making the cleric as flexible as a magic user. Because
even more flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and frankly, I always thought that the cleric kind of got the short end of it as far as like flexibility goes. Because as they go up in level, mages can do, wondrous things at the drop of a hat, and clerics going, okay, I got 3 healing spells here, I'm good for that, and then I got to do the bless, I got that, and they're constantly like taking inventory.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and also, the multi-class cleric mage becomes, at least in my games, the Swiss Army knife of the party, because he can not only cast offensive wizard spells, but he can also cast the defensive, the augmentative, the healing that a party needs.
Also, in early editions, there's so many things where only a blankety blank spell can stop this monster,
Oh, you're talking about going all the way back to the original, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I think also in 2E that's also there, which is there's certain monsters where only a certain spell will do anything, and
like a green slime, only a cure disease spell. I mean, aside from burning it with fire, only a cure disease spell will kill it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had just using that as an example, in one of my games, I had a cleric basically save a fighter's life by casting that spell. Yeah. Now the whole thing is that and I was using free casting at the time to get back to the original topic. And if the cleric didn't have the ability, if I didn't give the clerics the ability to do that, that fighter would be dead. And there's no raising a fighter that gets eaten by green slime. It just doesn't happen. So
you raise the green slime too, unfortunately.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. What about you, Full-On? Free casting?
Oh, yeah, I'm a big fan of free casting. It's something that gives that cleric their utility back. It lets somebody have more of a job than just being the Band-Aid. I mean, really, a cleric has 4 good, solid functions that they can be called on at any time to do out of their spell list, whether it's healing, dealing with knowledge, dealing with undead, or dealing with demons. Okay? And the necessity to get that kind of spell list assembled to deal with that specific threat can screw the party if you get caught by surprise by something.
Right. I mean, yeah, I understand it. And people always forget they're a battle priest.
Yeah.
Battle priest. He has a weapon for a reason.
No, you're right.
So, I think that's the way like clerics become higher level clerics, is by doing that for like the first 3 or 4 levels. Because they only got one heal spell.
Well, if their wisdom is average, yeah.
Yeah, a bless maybe, something like that.
Yeah, or a Caroline Wound spell, or something like that.
There you go. Okay, free casting. What do you guys think of it? THACOshammer@gmail.com. Our number.
405-806-0555.
I won't ask you again, okay?
It's okay.
And all the other usual places. Let's move on to not Rule 0, Magic Fingers.
Yes, sir.
Eeny, meeny, chili beany, the spirits are about to speak.
Well, it just so happens that your friend here is only mostly dead.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Magic Fingers.
Magic Fingers. Okay. Draw upon Holy Might. You will find this in the Tome of Magic. It's a 2nd level priest spell.
Yes.
And it is B, C, 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 D. It is on page 58. Let's see what we got here. It's in the invocation class.
Yep.
The sphere of summoning.
Yep.
It does have material components. Duration is 1 round per level. Casting time is 2. No saving throw.
Yep. Because
and the area effect is the caster.
Yep. And basically what it does is that it augments certain certain ability scores of the priest. He can augment his strength. He can augment his constitution, or
strength, dex, constitution, and charisma.
Yep. So,
and
if
it will go up +1 per 3 levels.
Yep. So, yeah. So basically, a cleric, like a battle cleric, a cleric of war who has a relatively high strength to begin with. He puts that, if he's going up against something that's really, really strong, and there's not, there's say a 50-50 chance the party may get, completely wiped out by this thing. That can tip the scales in the party's favor because he can put it on his strength and, increase his strength.
That's true.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. It says area of effect, the caster here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a person. You're just talking about a fighter here. I was wondering if it was. I got confused. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that, say you have a cleric of, war or whatever it is who has, like, say, a 17 strength, and he's like 9th level, he can cast this spell on himself to increase his strength to 20.
Himself. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha. Gotcha there. Okay. Like I said, this is in Tome of Magic. And have you ever used it?
Me? Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been in games where other people playing clerics have used it. I've used it, my clerics use it himself. The only drawback is that it severely drains the, it tires the priest out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. They'll just go to, like, 0 and just collapse after it.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a priest version of a berserker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. And this taps into the faith, the depth of faith that the cleric has in his deity. And as like I said, as he goes up in level, it becomes more effective.
It's like 2d4 rounds, he's out.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, he's basically exhausted. He can't do much of anything.
Yeah, he's spent time recovering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Full on, you got.
It's a useful. It's a good spell. It's a good spell. It's something that can be brought into play when you. It's the thing that you're going to bring out when you know you're going to get into that big fight, or you've got that boss bad you've got to deal with, or going back to free casting, if you find out, oh no, we have to figure out the mystery to this, and nobody has enough intelligence, or oh no, we really have to get this person to agree. We need someone with charisma, and oh, the bard happened to be in jail now because he went and stole something. So you need to be able to throw down and say, I will be the representative for this stat and bring it to the table what needed to be done. And it really doesn't take that much for, you get a lot of bang out of it. Yes, it's going to have you knocked down at the end of it, but while you're in operation, it's useful. And it doesn't take much to do it because all you need is, out of the verbal, semantic, material components, it's your holy symbol and holy water.
Yep.
Yeah.
Blessed by the high priest. That's it.
Yep.
That's all you need. And to me, it's one of those last ditch spells.
Yeah. Yeah, when you are going up against the big bad evil guy.
And everybody is down or injured or something like that, maybe dead.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to go, Lord, help me, and just run at it,
Right.
But again, you got to consider that there's more uses to it, because it's not just I want strength because I need to pound on things, or I want con because I need the hit points, or I need to hold my breath for another, 10 minutes while we cross this river or something like that. You can tap it for charisma. You can tap it for dexterity.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
You can tap it. The only thing you can't hit is wisdom, because you're already supposed to have that.
Yep.
Right. You need to climb a sheer cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody else can do it, but you have to do it.
Yep.
You draw upon your holy might to get that dexterity going.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're the guy who fell into the pit, and now you have to get out.
Yeah.
That's right.
Go ahead, Zach.
Oh, go ahead.
I really like a version of this spell where instead of just being exhausted when it's over, you're possessed or zealous or possessed by the god in question to some degree that you weren't before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in other words, the spell represents you sort of letting the god take you over to a certain degree. And so you can do this unusual thing and you're drawing on your faith, but then afterwards you're sort of stuck in that brain space.
For so long?
Yeah, like in West African religion and in voodoo, they have this concept that the gods ride you, and so they go into a trance and and so they can walk on coals and do things like that. And I like that notion that what you're doing essentially is you're praying and you're letting the god in, and then afterwards you're still sort of in that way. So maybe you like have to act in the way that you have to be very strict, or you're something like that. I like that idea. And I also think that it makes it a little bit more specific to each god. Like I like it when cleric magic is specific to the god, but it is in an easy way. You don't have to write a different version for each god. You just go, okay, you're a cleric of so-and-so. Well, now that you've used Draw Upon Holy Might, you now are, I don't know, obsessed with lightning or something like that for, the rest of the day or something.
That sounds good. I like that. It reminds me of something I can't think of. It's almost like self-hypnosis.
Yeah.
In that respect. You did the thing, but you're still in the zone.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
You're going to be in the zone until, whatever time.
It seems to make sense for a priest archetype. Like that seems to be a plausible kind of. You can imagine it working that way.
Oh yeah. Okay, Fred's still in the zone. We turn to the corner until, just stay there, okay? His eyes are glowing. I don't want to look at him. Okay.
That's something else you can have fun with this, because it describes it as a spell result where the priest's body shudders and glows with a shimmering aura as you become a vessel for the powers of your god.
Yes,
well,
that's a good word.
You can take that and say, this is a perfect example of bringing into your gameplay the IME, the individual magical effect that represents your god, represents your character, and the merging of the two of those, where you are the cleric of Leviatar and you are surrounded by an aura of lashing whips or floating skulls or squiddly tentacles or whatever it is while this is going on. The different colors that it can glow. You can customize this to tailor it to the effects of your deity and look as menacing or as imposing and dramatic and heroic as you want.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? You could really mess with the players with this.
Yeah.
You could mess with the players in the fact that if you do it this way, as you said, Zach, what if the god leaves him open for a little bit and something else climbs in there?
Well, you wouldn't want to make it so that the player's opening themselves to get screwed by using the spell, because then a lot of times players won't use it. But I feel like if in the middle after the spell you then get attacked in a certain way, that's what I mean. Then maybe that means that you're suddenly open. But even though I kind of like the idea of spells that gimp you after you cast them, the players don't choose them.
Yeah, a lot of times this doesn't get chosen just because of that. Because this is one of those things that if it didn't work, you're boned, you're out, you're no more any help.
Yeah, so I would feel like I would want to make it just enough that it's interesting that you cast it and it's not just a buff, because I hate it when it's just a buff,
Right.
But at the same time,
it's a buff without any consequences, right?
Yeah, not so unpredictable that everyone's like, oh god, don't pick that spell. Just pick, Cure Light Wounds,
Okay, how about this? A long-reaching effect. He draws upon Holy Might, they get through the scenario. What if that god's arch enemy god took notice of him using that and saw him go in, being used as a vessel of that god, going, hey, I found somebody new I can pick on for the next campaign or something.
Well, send a few of his own priests the cleric's way.
Yeah, or some of his little minor demons and stuff, and
Yeah, I don't see why not.
I like the idea, like in Lord of the Rings, every time Frodo put the ring on, Sauron could see him.
Yeah.
I like the idea that certain actions on the part of the characters allow certain gods to see them or not see them. So I imagine if you're using, Draw Upon Holy Might, then other gods might be able to see you because you're sort of putting a big glowing X on you, like
and that's good. And boy, plot hook, boy,
big
right
time.
there,
yep,
big time. You could do a lot of stuff just being just being the favorite of an evil god.
Could you imagine a couple variants of this spell, like draw lightly upon Holy Might, get a little bit less out of it, and not down so long, or draw mightily upon Holy Might and really throw the flag out?
See, yeah,
and
I would do the whole.
What are you, Johnny Storm, with this Nova Blast?
Yeah, but no, what I would probably do is I would take Zach's idea and just make, like, say, this, draw upon Holy Might, the 2nd level spell. I'd make this like a 5th, one where he taps almost directly into his god's power instead of, shall we say, praying for it. Having the ability to tap into his god's power and getting like an additional bonus to whatever he needs to put that power into. But let's just say that he borks himself by, knocking himself out for like 2 to 8 days or something like that, to where, because the mortal body was not designed to hold that kind of power for very long. Or you could even take it one step further and saying there's a percentage chance that having so much of your deity's power inside you may kill you.
Woohoo! System shock. Here we go.
Get right back into the let's not pick this spell.
Hey,
well,
if
you know what? If you
desperate enough, they'll take the chance.
Okay. Listen to this. This may gimp them, but I'm all for gimping players on a spell if it's only a temporary thing.
Yeah.
Like, say, if they drew upon Holy Might and they got so much power, they had a percentage chance or something like that to go insane for X number of days.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Because they looked inside, they saw the true form of their god, and it just bent their mind some. They're going to have to take a while to get back to normal.
Okay.
And it's not even that. Aside from what he was saying before about, doing this literally throws the jumper cables out and taps into the power of your deity to bring you up to a certain power level. Well, not only are the other deities noticing that, I think your deity noticed it as well. And Lord help you if you happen to screw the pooch and fail in the attempt of whatever it was you were doing that you needed this spell for.
No, that's a good mechanic. I like that. You have to succeed. Like, he's basically giving you this power so that you'll. It's like when a producer gives you money to go make a TV show.
Yeah.
There could be more consequences to failure than success. Than just having to lie down in a coma for a while.
Yeah.
I like that. I like insane better than coma because coma just takes you out of the game for a while and everybody just goes, okay, 4 days later, or we don't have a cleric. Whereas insane or something like that generates more story, I feel.
I think it might be a little more reasonable to just do like the inverse of whatever it was that you got is now for the same duration. You take that as a penalty after the fact.
Wow. There's a crippling effect. That's a good way to gimp them.
I get a +5 strength. Well, afterward,
could still be useful in a super desperate situation, but you're not just lying there comatose waiting for someone to coup de grace you.
Okay,
that's true.
I like that.
You take the comatose if you fail.
Okay, that
works. These guys are still of limited usefulness if they go like insane. I mean, you can take them along. You can still cure runes.
Oh, there's all kinds of definitions of insanity, though.
Well, that's true. It all depends on what kind of insanity it is.
He can cure your wounds or turn undead, but he goes over and talks to squirrels in the meantime.
Mm-hmm. Or he just starts giggling and laughing for no reason.
Giggling and laughing, or going like in a fetal position and rocking or something.
Or he takes level and bard.
Wow. Yeah, we're not demented or anything, folks. Really, we're not.
No, we're not. We're not. Anyway, let's draw upon Holy Might. I bet you guys got some good ideas. Tell us about it. THACOShammer@gmail.com and all the other places. And now, 99% perspiration.
Why don't we just get some carnations and a beer stein and just put them right up here?
Geez, Tolkien couldn't follow this plot.
If somebody doesn't share your opinion.
99% perspiration.
99% perspiration this week is an AD&D supplement called Bastion of Faith by Bruce R. Cordell.
Yep.
It is TSR number 11442, so it was way down the list there as far as the timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and,
it's towards the end. Yeah.
Kiz Johnson designed it. And what is this, Brian?
This is basically a. I think when they were making some of these modules, because they made like a College of Wizardry, which we'll probably cover in some future episode.
They did a Thieves thing too.
Thieves Guild, yes, they did. I'm surprised they didn't do like just a fighter's training complex or something like that, just to balance out all the classes.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, this is a fully fleshed out church and almost military complex all in one. What this is the Temple of Hieronymus, I should say. But one of the better things they do with this is that they give you the tools. This is supposedly put in Greyhawk, and yeah, considering I've been reading the NPCs, there are a lot of references to places on Greyhawk, but they also give you the tools to put it in Forgotten Realms, or to put it in Planescape, put it in Dragonlance or Birthright, wherever you want to put it. But basically, what this is basically a lawful good faith, and hell, they even have, to get back to the point I was making, they even have a way for you to put this in Dark Sun, of all places. Yeah. But
can we put it in Ravenloft?
Wow. Can you imagine? You want to know what? I could see that as like a last outpost kind of thing. Like, the encroaching, basically the encroaching darkness of the plane running up, in battle with the temple, but
I could see that as the place that you have to get out of Ravenloft.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah, the last bastion. We're playing Rio Bravo all of a sudden. Cool.
Yeah. It's a Rio Bravo.
Interesting that way, actually.
Yeah, I like that idea.
The Alamo.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Zach?
I said it seems more interesting as an outpost in Dark Sun or Ravenloft, than just a random place in a world with lots of churches.
Right.
Yes.
But
yes,
I
the only ones keeping the faith.
Right. Keeping the faith. Okay. I think the major point of this supplement is that it's a shining example of how you can have lawful good, chaotic good, and neutral good people in the same place, more or less pulling in the same direction, but they have disagreements about how things should be done.
Right.
There's a temple hierarchy with the high abbot. His name is Gaius. He's like 53 years old. He used to be a fighter. Now he's like a high priest. I think he's here he is. He was a 10th level fighter. Now he's a 17th level cleric. And he used to be this this legendary warrior until he put up his sword and everything else, and he took up the trappings of his faith. And basically what it is, he has a more modern outlook as to what the church should be doing and how it should be doing it. And then underneath him, there are different factions within the faith who have their own way of, their own ideas about how things should be done. But the thing is, they're all good alignment, so they're not going to screw each other over.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah.
But then again,
go ahead.
It's not like this has ever not gone wrong before.
No, it hasn't. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, at the center of all this is like this artifact level tome. And there are certain people within the faith who want to use that tome. And if I'm not mistaken, the tome might actually cause the downfall of the faith. If it gets opened up and used, it's one of those things. It's like this big morality play about the road to hell being paved with good intentions, or at least that's what I'm seeing.
I have a general question about the way religion works in the default settings for 2E.
Okay.
I've never quite gotten straight. If you just go to a random church, and there's a priest there, is that a leveled cleric or is that just some guy? And how high in a church hierarchy do you have to go before you actually start running into leveled people with spells?
That's a very good question. At least for me, Glenn, Full-On maybe can weigh in on this too. With me, when you walk up to X church, like you're looking for, let's say you're looking for healing spells or, whatever, you're not going to run into leveled people, at least not immediately. When you go into that place, you're going to run into the initiates and, maybe someone who's in charge of the initiates, and they're going to ask you, what your purpose is, what you want, and all this stuff. And depending on what your answer is and how you answer it, which is actually more important than the reason, because if you don't show the proper respect for, a faith inside of a church's walls, you're going to be out on your butt within 5 seconds. At least that's how I see it. But depending on what the answer is, then they would get sent to probably the lowest level priest who is in charge of that particular, of what the party's looking for. Like in this particular supplement, if a party wants a companion of theirs raised, they get sent immediately to one of the NPC clerics in here. I think it's one of the mothers. You know what? Something else that I saw while I was reading through this? I like the idea of it, but the funny part is that this is a Catholic faith from what I'm looking at. Because they even have catechisms and stuff like that. And it's just like, wow, I didn't realize that the first time I read it. But they even have lists of goods and services you can purchase from the faith and things like that. You can even have, purchase a retreat room, like say someone's a worshiper of it and you just want some place to stay and you don't have...
They have confessionals.
I bet they do. I'm at this point...
Speaking as a former Catholic boy.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Do they have altar boys and do they talk about them? Anyway. Sorry.
PG, remember?
It really does all kind of depend on the power setting of your campaign or your chosen campaign setting. Because if you're playing in Mystara, you're definitely going to see a lot more of the lay worshiper type, cloistered cleric, not really adventuring clerics, priest in name, not in power, type things. But if you're playing in the Forgotten Realms, that's a high magic thing. If you have even just, here's the local temple, okay, that local temple probably has at least a leveled cleric in it, if he's not the only guy there who leads services. Or there's adventures that they wrote up where it was, there's a low-level guy who tends the building, and there's a higher-level guy who's like an itinerant cleric working the circuit, going around a particular region. But then that's a game setting where you have high-level leveled people around every other rock and tree. And in Greyhawk you get something in kind of the middle zone. But it really depends on how you want to present how much involved that faith is. It also depends on what you're using for your deities or your pantheons in use. Are they cooperative deities? Do they have issues where you can have, here is a primary faith temple dedicated to just this god and all else can go away? Or is it one where they can say, here is our primary worship area, and often little alcoves to the side we make little nods to the other deities that we are cooperative with, and you can see to them? Or if you have a common faith chapel in, say, a keep or a castle or something like that, where they give you a place to worship for any and all faiths.
Yeah, because when I was writing Vornheim, and when I'm running Vornheim, it's supposed to be the biggest city in the area, right?
Right.
And there's supposed to be a big church there, like St. John's in New York. It's it would logically be the largest church in the immediate setting for the PCs. So if somebody has a cleric of Vorn, then they're probably attached to that church and they know those people. And so then the question is, well, when they meet whoever's the boss, is that person have to sort of, because of the nature of the setting, automatically have to be the highest level of cleric? And my initial feeling is no. A lot of these people aren't even clerics. They're just religious people they have a title but not the powers, you know? Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, it does kind of beg the question, like rationally, well, then what is a high-level cleric? Are they people who aren't attached to a church and just happen to be lucky in some certain sense, adventurers? Or, in other words, I guess the overall question, which is interesting to me for any setting, but it's also interesting looking at Bastion of Faith, is how closely are going up in levels as a cleric tied to a church hierarchy, you know, in your setting. And I just think that's
politics versus power.
Yeah, and so if somebody happens to know the highest priest in the biggest church in a city, does that mean they automatically know a 20th level cleric? Or does that just mean they know somebody with a title?
Well, that all depends.
Bastion assumes that you know somebody of the appropriate level, I think.
Well, the way they have it done, they have a description of what, of the various things an adventuring party would need, and why would they come to this particular faith, and they explain to the DM how you should handle it. And the whole thing is that if you have a hierarchy, then you have to go up the line. You have to go up the chain of command, depending on how serious the issues the player characters have. And the whole thing is that if it's just regular, I just need I'm a brother of this faith. Myself and my companions need a place to stay for the night. We do not have the money to get an inn or whatever it is. That would be handled by somebody who doesn't even have. That would be somebody just in the hierarchy who doesn't have clerical powers. I would think that, or at least the way I would run it is, if the players needs one of the clerics who have the powers, and they've just got to run it up the flagpole, so to speak.
I see it as a military type organ, not military, but it's sort of kind of set up like that, because in the military you have your privates, grunts, and the first officer you usually run into is a sergeant, who is a non-commissioned officer. Mm-hmm. That's probably the first person you talk to in a church, who would have no spells or abilities. They may have magical items on them they know how to use, but they would not. And the next person you go up in the military is like the captain. That's where you start with the spells. That's where you start with the levels right there.
Right.
Okay.
And, the whole, like I said, and the whole thing is that, once you figure out, because they have it break down, that's a good way of using it. They have it broken down by, the whole roster of everyone who is in this church, from the high priest all the way down, going into just regular fighters, even some thieves, rangers, almost every class is represented. They even have 0 level priests who are training to be priests in the order.
Yeah, looking at the map, it seems like it's sort of meant as like a home base, almost like a Hogwarts kind of thing. Like
I would imagine so. Mm-hmm. I would imagine so. I mean, I think this will work not just for, like, say, an all-priest campaign, but you could have an adventuring party, that would be their home, their base.
Right.
Say they're all either the same faith or of faiths that are friendly to that faith, and they pay the priesthood so much a month, as tithes. So, and they'll give them shelter and whatever to regroup if they have to go back and down to the next 3 levels of the dungeon and clear them out or something.
Right.
Or the useful thing to come across if, say, we kind of have reason to suspect that we angered a Rakshasa, or we're being stalked by a vampire, and we need a place to take sanctuary and reset and prepare for getting rid of this.
Yeah.
It also just seems like it's the map and the set of NPCs is useful if you just sort of need, like, how do I make a church interest? Like, if you're just running into a large like a monastery or church, and you need, well, what's in a building like that? You know, like at least many times in my campaigns, like I come across a building which is a standard medieval establishment, and I'm like, well, this is, you know, it's a pig farm. It'll have pigs. That's all I know for sure, you know? So it's not, you know, this has, you know, it has, okay, there's a place for the animals, there's residence for each person. In other words, it's a plausible environment that you could kind of adapt. You could basically look at it and go, okay, I'm making my own abbey or my own church.
Yeah.
I can use this as a template to go off of for what the density of you know, what would be in a building like that.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's what they started with. Then somebody said, wait a minute, let's just not just put this out there, all this dry information out there. Let's also, they did it with College of Wizardry, actually. The same exact thing, where there's this dark secret about this faith, where it's like only high level players would get included into it somehow. Or or if one of the players in the party is a priest of this faith, because there are those within the faith who, you know, like I said, they want to do things differently. They're not out to, you know, completely derail things, but they disagree with the current leadership, and that disagreement might lead them possibly to do something they might not. You know, so my whole thing is that I think they started off with let's create a thieves guild, let's create a wizards guild, let's create a fully
academy.
Exactly, a fully functioning church. Let's do all that. Then someone came along and said, no, let's throw in a little plot hook here too.
No, I think that's a good idea, because if you don't, then you're stuck with a floor plan, and that's all you've got.
Right.
You know, you sold someone a floor plan.
They haven't done that before.
But yeah, but I mean, I think it's better if you have some hooks embedded in it that you can say you can use this or not. But this is where the graveyards would be. This is where the holy water font would be. This is where the armory would be.
Right.
So you can take or leave these plot hooks, but there's stuff there. I think that's a good compromise solution. I mean, it seems like a basically useful module, even if you're not using those hooks. But if you are, they're there, you know?
Right.
And they even have, just as one more aside, because I'm reading as we're talking, they even have NPCs in this that tie into the other two books, The Den of Thieves and The College of Wizardry. And in the Bastion of Faith, basically what happens is every so often the church sends out people to basically clean up the streets. You know, if the Thieves Guild gets gets a little out of hand with what they're doing, the faith actually goes out and, you know, cleans it up. And so there is almost a direct conflict between the Thieves Guild and the faith. And then there is also someone in here who actually is part of the College of Wizardry, who basically sells spells for money. And, you know, it's just one of these, you know, like I said, it's just as you go deeper into it, there's a lot more. There are more plot hooks than you might think.
So there's a reason to have that kind of broker there too, because, you know, the mages in their college are not making potions of healing. That's what the clerics do. So they can buy, sell, and trade the various things that they need to work with each other.
Yep. Exactly.
So this whole thing's like layers of an onion.
Yeah, I mean, you can just keep peeling off layers, and every time you think you've kind of gotten down to the bottom of it, there's more involved.
All depends on how involved the DM wants to be.
Exactly. You know, it could just be a place for the PCs to, you know, heal up and all that kind of stuff, and just be treated like that. Or, you know, these little plot hooks can be introduced, and if, you know, one of the players grabs it, then all of a sudden it's like, you know, you're in the middle of like this, shall I say, benign conflict within the ranks of the church.
Doesn't even have to remain benign. I'm good, you're good, but I'm better than you.
Yeah,
Or,
there are
"I
a couple in
can
there
do
like
this-
that.
We can do this a better way, and I'm going to be violent about making sure it happens.
Could you see like anything like this, Zach, in like Vornheim or in the area of Vornheim?
Did I see a
Could you see something like this?
Yeah, definitely. I actually I had a sort of fully functioning. I mean, the church that's in Vornheim, the big one, is mapped out really, sketchy. Just labeling things that should be in a church complex. Basically, that's all I did. I didn't put too many hooks in it. But yeah, I mean, what I like about this supplement, looking at it, it's got it basically, because I think there's a problem with regular buildings versus dungeons, in that dungeons are interesting because someone's trying to not let you in. So they have security measures and other interesting things. Whereas regular buildings aren't, like during the day-to-day role-playing, like if you're going to see the king or you're visiting a priest, you don't need a map, and the map's not interesting because no one's trying to prevent you from getting anywhere specific. And so you're like, okay, if you go down the hall and 3 feet to the left, you're in the refectory. Who cares? You don't have to tell the players that. You just say you go to eat dinner, But on the other hand, there are situations where a floor plan gets turned into a dungeon because you get invaded by zombies or you need to steal something. In other words, what was a normal location a second ago where you didn't need a map, because there's an emergency or urgency, suddenly you do need a map. And you do need that.
Insensitive to plot or character actions.
Exactly. And so it's nice just to have a supplement where somebody went, okay, if we had a big complex that had monks living there, plus it was a functioning church, plus we had paladins, we had all the things that we'd expect from this kind of location, and this is what they would be like, because a person could then, you don't have to use this particular one, but you can go through everything in it and go, okay, anterooms, chapel entrance, chapel, cloakroom, like these are the things that would be there. And then you can go, and then they took it and they said, okay, well, how do you make a plot hook out of the pantry? How do you make a plot hook out of the kitchen? And I think that that's definitely a useful way to go about it. I had a whole abbey outside of Rome, which I based on an actual abbey. There's a map, a famous medieval map of an abbey, and it has all the things that would be in it. But it was like, I felt like I had to do that. What if they go over here? What do I do? Like, do they have a workshop in an abbey? Do they have pigs in abbeys? Or is that, you're not allowed to do that? Where do they put the kitchen? Just like little things like that, that if you're a DM, you're like, I'd like to get it right if I have a choice,
Yes.
I'd like
How do they sustain themselves? Is it just on the donations, or are they a producing brewery or vintner or farm or something else?
Yeah, it's just like all these little things where you're like, I could just make it all up, but maybe doing it right would give me some ideas that are actually better,
Yep, that makes sense to me.
So it's a bastion of faith, folks. And you know what? I have never seen this in a bookstore, used or otherwise.
Yeah, I would say, I'd say the stuff
I've seen
towards
the College of Wizardry. I've seen the Den of Thieves, but I've never seen this one.
Right. I have the College of Wizardry as a physical copy, but yeah, the stuff towards the end gets a little bit more rare because I think they were slowing down production of second edition stuff.
This is copyright 1999. So
99. Yeah, right at the end, yeah.
Really small print runs. So if you find it at a decent price, grab it. I can imagine what it's going to be going on online.
I can find out.
I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, that's money you can't afford to spend, Glenn, right?
Right. Well, we come to the end of another one.
Yes,
Splatbook24 is just about to be closed. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Zach, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thank you.
That was a whole lot of fun. I like that. Vaughn, want to say bye?
It's been another thrill ride, guys. Glad you let me join you.
Ryan?
Until next time, farewell, folks.
And Zach, you want to tell them what your blog address is before you go?
www.dn, the letter ND with pornstars.blogspot.com.
And if that isn't a ringing endorsement from us, I don't know what is. Thanks for being with us, Zach. You want to say bye?
Bye-bye.
Okay, and I'm DM Glenn, and I'll see you guys next time when the hammer comes down on The Hammer. Bye-bye. THACO's Hammer theme is provided by the Diablo Swing Orchestra. You'll find them on Jamendo.com. All other additional music for this episode was provided by Kevin MacLeod. You'll find more of his music on Incompetech.com. Be sure to visit our website at thacoshammer.info. If you have any questions or comments, email us at thacoshammer@gmail.com. Remember, that's an O, not a 0. You can also find us on the second edition forums at osrgaming.org and at purpleworm.org. Or give us a call and leave us a voicemail at 405-806-0555. See you next time when the hammer comes down on THACO's Hammer.